Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Nerdy Multiverse and yet another The Walking Dead or The Ones Who Live video. Today I had something a little different in mind, compared to the usual episode breakdowns that I do, as me and honestly quite a lot of other fans in the Walking Dead fandom have noticed certain Easter eggs in the first 3 episodes of The Ones Who Live, possibly hinting towards the appearance and the return of a huge character that we have all wanted to reunite with Rick Grimes for many years now. That character being Morgan Jones. So I wanted to make a sort of theory video pointing out and connecting all of these different Easter eggs, hints, and teases. And bear with me because it will be my first ever theory video. But anyways, let's dive into the hints and the Easter eggs that I think are pointing towards his return and reunion with Rick Grimes in The Ones Who Live. But then again, remember, it is just a nerdy theory, so who knows what will truly happen. But anyways, let's get into diving into these hints and the return of Morgan Jones in The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live. Obviously, we all know that Morgan was the very first living human being that Rick came across when he woke up from his coma and in the middle of the apocalypse. And the two have had their very short reunions and searches for each other go on and off throughout the entire franchise. So it would not be surprising if it happens once more. First off, Scott Gimple, the showrunner for The Ones Who Live, has actually came out and stated that there will be yet another character returning in this series, other than obviously just Jadis. Of course, this could be a plethora of different characters, maybe a minor character, or even a character from World Beyond. Who actually knows? Gimple did say, however, the character returning would be unexpected. So that does sort of make it seem like he isn't actually hinting at Morgan, as fans are kind of expecting that. However, there are other things that do point specifically at Morgan Jones. So let's move on. The last time that we saw Morgan Jones was in his final episode in Fear the Walking Dead, that episode being Season 8, Episode 6. And in this episode, at least at the end of it, Morgan Jones powered on a walkie-talkie just like the good old days, and when he spoke into it, he attempted to relay a message to Rick. As he says, this message is for Rick Grimes. Man, it's Morgan Jones, and I'm gonna come and look for you. Whether you're in Alexandria or not, I will leave this message every morning at dawn, and I will leave the walkie on for a few minutes after. Who knows? Maybe you might even be listening right now. Now, after this happened, there has yet to be any known connections for his search for Rick and the rest of the franchise. Fear's timeline was set a bit behind the rest of these shows as well. However, in Daryl Dixon, when Carol comes into contact with Daryl on the phone call, she tries to tell him that someone returned, but the character's name gets cut out by static. And here, I think she was actually saying that Morgan came back, as she wouldn't be talking about Michonne or Rick, as she wouldn't say it so calmly and so suddenly, because everyone thought Rick was dead and Michonne just left for years, and the only other character she would actually mention a return to Daryl about would be Morgan, in my opinion. Especially due to the fact that those two characters grow very close during the All Out War arc. That call between Carol and Daryl was also a flashback scene, so there would be more time to catch up to The Ones Who Live, and have Morgan come and go from Alexandria or the Commonwealth and continue his search for Rick. And to add on to all of that, Morgan has come into contact with the CRM himself multiple times, and he has taken a hit squad out of theirs before. All of this brings us into The Ones Who Live. This is where we start to dive into the actual Easter eggs, connecting the series to aspects of Morgan's story and Morgan himself. Starting off with the show's intro itself. In the intro for The Ones Who Live, there are different shots of the CRM's map of operations and map of the United States, pointing out their different bases and points of interest and their three major cities of Omaha, Portland, and the CRM city of Philadelphia. However, there is also a major spot marked on Texas with a radioactive sign over it. This is because in season 6 of Fear the Walking Dead, Texas was hit with a nuclear warhead. And the CRM being aware of that makes perfect sense, obviously because they are such a big organization and group. But also the fact that they went into the intro and decided to add details like that connects Fear to The Ones Who Live. And of course, Morgan was in fear at the time. Then heading into the very first episode of the series, when Okafor is meeting with Pearl Thorne and Rick in secret to discuss his plans for the CRM and its future, he hands the pair a stack of books. One of these books is The Art of Peace, a book that has major connections to Morgan Jones and his overall development and story. In episode 4 of season 6 of the original Walking Dead series, Morgan went on a journey with a character known as Eastman, becoming a more peaceful man and learning the art and skills of Aikido. During this time, Eastman gave Morgan a copy of The Art of Peace, and after spending some time reading this book and learning from it and learning from Eastman himself, Morgan went on to live by that code for years and years. He's had his moments, obviously, but he still believes in that code that came from The Art of Peace. And guess who wrote the Eastman and Morgan episode? Scott Gimple. That book was purposely added for a reason. Now moving on to the second episode of The Ones Who Live. When Michonne is making her way into the CRM and being interviewed, she goes by the name of Dana instead of Michonne and makes up her entire story. She uses different aspects of people that she has known throughout the years to put together a brand new story and a made up story. She used characters like Nat, Aiden, Bailey, and the entire Nomads group. But when she is asked what her weapon of choice was out there, she actually says that it was a bow staff. The only characters that would have come from would be Henry and Morgan. Either way though, it connects back to Morgan however, as Henry was taught by Morgan, and both of which used a bow staff as their weapon of choice. Now, there weren't any hints in the third episode of the series. However, in the teaser for the fourth episode, we actually get quite a few in my opinion, as we see Michonne along with Rick fighting off walkers throughout this teaser, and every shot we see of Michonne doing so, she is using some sort of metal pipe or something, but the way that she uses it is that of a bow staff. Even when she is swinging it, it's in the same sort of Aikido movements that Morgan would do. She even uses the end of it later on in another shot in the teaser to puncture the head of a walker. This was also done by Morgan. He used a sharp end for the walkers and a dull end for the living. Now you may be thinking, there's absolutely no way a book, a mention, or a shot of a bow staff is in any way hinting at Morgan Jones returning, which I could very honestly understand. However, Scott Gimple is the showrunner, and Gimple absolutely loves his cliffhangers and his teases for the future of this franchise. Whether it's done in a good way or sometimes in a bad way, he loves that aspect and he constantly does it. I mean, we have literally gotten cliffhanger endings for every single episode this season on The Ones Who Live. and there is absolutely no way that the story of Rick and Michonne can actually come full circle and end without them reuniting with the ones that they love. Morgan was the first to meet Rick in the apocalypse, and he has been there since literally day one. Their reunion is very much needed. I won't be surprised if there happens to be even more teases throughout this series or even an appearance, but either way, I really just wanted to make this right now because it was so intriguing to me and I adore the character of Morgan. Whether his return happens in the next few episodes, in a cliffhanger, or in a post-credit scene, or maybe even in a second season of The Ones Who Live, that I do think is going to happen because of the show's super high ratings, I guess we will just have to wait and find out. When Morgan Jones makes his return and finally reunites with Rick Grimes. But of course, I would like to hear your thoughts on the return of Morgan Jones as well. Do you think he will return, and do you think these are actual hints at that? So make sure to leave your thoughts down below. And with that being said, thank you all for watching, and if you enjoyed our theory, don't forget to give it a like. We will see you all the next time that we go through and explore the nerdy multiverse.